It's all good. His name is Stefan Breitwieser. Uh, I mentioned living in Montana. I mentioned living here in Utah. For 7 years, between the two, I lived in southern France. Lovely. One of the other advantages of a freelance journalism job is definitely the disadvantages are the paycheck. The advantages are the chance to be rich. I'm rich with experience, if not cash. But I can live where I want. I have three teenage children. My wife is a professor. We both have semi-portable jobs, and we lived in France for almost 7 years um, between 2014 and the end of the pandemic, like 21. Um, and again, I continued my tradition of reading small town papers, but this time in French. Je parle français, I speak French, and did see a crazy what the French call an entrefilet, a little article about a guy it said something like, this guy broke into 200 museums, stole 300 works of art, worth $2 billion, non-violently stole everything, and this was the kicker, just hung them in his bedroom to enjoy it. And I'm like, I got to know more about this. And sort of, again, that launched my next pursuit, which was to see if I could talk to this art thief. I wrote a letter in French to Stefan Breitwieser, who was at the time incarcerated. Usually don't find out about a criminal when they're still uncaught. But yeah, he had been incarcerated. I think this was one of those. So I think if you polled my wife and three children, I don't think any of the four would say, "Oh, Dad's very patient." I don't think that is a thing with me. I'm not patient at all. I don't think patience is a virtue. However, I do understand that one must take one's time uh, in the pursuit of a story. So I'm patiently impatient, perhaps. So I wrote a letter to this art thief who had not ever spoken with a American before and had hardly ever given any journalistic interviews. And again, not patient guy, but waited like 2 years for a response. During which, by the way, I did plenty of other stories. It's not like I'm just twiddling my thumbs waiting for this one guy to get back. Always got like 17 burners on, lots of articles in various stages of but yeah, he wrote back to me after 2 years. He just didn't feel like writing back to me while he was incarcerated. He got released. He wrote back to me. We sent letters back and forth in French. I was living in France. Eventually I said, "Can we meet for lunch?" The art thief Stefan Breitwieser said, "Yeah, don't bring a pen. Don't bring a tape recorder. It's just a lunch meeting." And we met for lunch. We spoke French together. And perhaps he was un peu charmant, a little charmed par mon mauvais français, by my shitty French, and agreed to speak to me. And it was one of those wonderfully magical journalistic moments in that this guy who was very cagey for literally like years, once he agreed to speak with me, it was like the floodgates opened and proceeded to tell me his life story of crime. And so much so that we went to museums together. He's banned from museums. He had to like put on a disguise and was showing me step by step exactly how he stole everything, gave me signed, written permission to read his psychology reports. So it was really like a 10-year process from first letter to finished book. And I'm really like, I don't know what to say to anyone listening that's a writer except for like, wow, I'm extraordinarily inefficient. I'm not sure if you should emulate anything I do, but I'm kind of happy with the way things turned out, but it did take a ridiculously long amount of time. So Stefan Breitwieser had a very specific form of not just stealing, unlike almost all or any other art thief. Most people steal art for one reason, which is to get money. Like the reason most people steal anything. This was like literally one out of 1,000 thieves steal with any aesthetic sensibility. So Breitwieser had just a deep aesthetic love of the late Renaissance and early Baroque Northern European forms of art. And that is like 16th and 17th century for those of us who forgot their Art 101 course. And so the names are well known to those of us who know anything about like 17th century art, like Albrecht, Dürer and Cranach and Boucher and Van Kessel. So these are sort of like famous like Dutch and Flemish artists worth millions upon millions of dollars, but much earlier than, say, Picasso, Matisse, and the more well-known things that you'll find at MoMA. But he had a very discerning eye. In fact, I don't say I love the way he steal. I don't I don't condone stealing, but like he really, this is like an artist, this was like an aesthete that was also a genius thief. And so it was fascinating to witness and have the opportunity to speak with such a complicated, fascinating, and criminal gentleman.